One of the ways to best enhance our interactive presentations is by including audio and video. Now, the interactivity that we can add to the audio and video at this point is limited to controlling those audio and video files by importing. We can do things such as play, stop, pause, and resume by connecting those files to interactive buttons that we create within InDesign or graphics or any element that we choose to turn into a button. That said, let's go ahead and get this going. Let me go ahead and create a new folder. A new file, sorry. And I am going to maintain the same settings that we've been using in the past. So I'm not changing much on that. What I want to do in this file is I want to create a couple of things. I want to finesse it a bit. So I want to create a background layer. So I'm going to go to the layers panel and create a background layer. And in that background layer, I am going to drop in an image. And that's just going to be my background image for this. So let's go back to Lecture 15, and there it is. Let's go ahead and drop in that image so that it covers the entirety of the background. So that is basically like a kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of background thing. And I want to lock that. That's just going to be my background image. Now, on top of this, I want to put a video that is from an adventure movie that refers to a guy chasing dragons and, almost like a Merlin kind of story. So what we want to do with that is I want to bring in the file, the video file, just like any other file you simply place. So go to layer 2, and I'm going to place it on layer 2. Now that video, I have it inside this video folder, and there it is. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to simply click to place it. That's the file size of the video. So you can see it will occupy that area. And if I were to test this right now, if I were to go ahead and test the application, it's going to create a video window for me. And if I play it, it will play the video.
Why was I sent to this place?
So that works just fine. Now let's go ahead and close this for just a second. And let's take a look at what that video media piece brings in with it. Let's close that layers window and go to that with the media selected. I'm going to go to the media button. Now the media button deals with both video and audio. So depending on what file you have selected, this window will change so that you have properties for each one of them. And as you can see, the amount of properties that you have are very limited on what you can do with this. You can go ahead and say play it as soon as the page opens, or you can loop the video, but that doesn't work for PDF. The other thing that you can do is you can actually choose from this drop-down menu to bring in files that are somewhere like YouTube or something that you can share from those online platforms, and by providing a URL. So if I click on that, I can enter the URL for my video from a video server. Problem is that for that to work, you would have to be connected to the web when the person is viewing the application. So there is an extra layer to keep in mind as you develop your applications. You can also have PDF options to see how that video will be exported into the PDF format. So you can choose that from here. Another thing that you can do is choose what the poster is for the movie. Right now, by default, it chooses the very first frame. But you can go ahead and choose a different poster, meaning what you can see, whether you want to choose an image from elsewhere, or you want to use the current frame, which means whatever you place this, that's going to become the poster. If we choose current frame, it will change eventually when I export this thing. But for now, I just want to say, none if you don't want to. If you want to keep it as black, that's all we want. So for now, that works just fine. And this is basically all you can do. You can actually preview the video in here if you want to, but, it's a very small thumbnail size of that video. Let me go ahead and close that for just a second. And what I want to do with this video is I want to create some sort of interactivity from buttons outside of the video. So first things first, what I want to do is I don't want to see the video when I load my application. So in order to hide the video, I want to go ahead and create an empty frame. That's just an empty frame right here. I'm going to create a small rectangle up here. And that's just an empty frame. It contains nothing. It's not going to get on the way of anything. Then I'll select that empty frame, and then I'll shift select the video. With those two items selected, I am going to create an MSO. I'm going to create a multi-state object. And I want to make sure that the first state is the empty box. The second state is my video. So you notice that when the video starts, that's where it's going to start, and I'm not going to see my video. Then when I click on a button, I'm going to call the second video and I'm going to tell it to play. That's how that's going to work. So I'm going to change the object name to movie. And I am going to, I can change the names of the states, but since I only have 2, then I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let's go ahead and bring in the graphics for the buttons. So I'm going to bring in a couple of files for the controllers. So I'm going to go to images and I have a pause and a play button. I'm going to click both of them and I'm going to place them down here. Right here. Let's go ahead and place them about that size. So since I have 2, I press the arrow key to create an extra container, an extra frame, and now I have those 2 buttons set up at the same size. So if I align them to the left, they're going to be one on top of the other. Since I have both of them selected right now, I'm going to go ahead and click on buttons, and then I'm going to make them both of them buttons right there. And I'm going to select the top button. I'm going to deselect by clicking elsewhere. Select the top button. That's the play button. I'm going to call it play button. And the other one is going to be the pause button. Pause, but I can type today. Pause button. And that's just the name. Okay. So for the play button, what I want to do is when I click on it, I want to do 2 things. The first thing I want to do is I want to go to a state. A state of what? In the movie multi-state object, I want to go to the second state. I want to go to where I see the movie. I also at this time want to add to the exact same action to the same listener. So I'm going to add an extra step to the function, which is I am going to play the video. So I'm going to go to video from the drop-down menu and I want to tell it to play the movie. That's what I want to do. I can also say resume if it was already in play. So I can say play and that's going to start it from the very beginning. So just as a refresher, play starts from the file from the beginning. Stop stops the file completely. So if you hit play again, it's going to go back to the beginning. Pause stops the video, whatever it happens to be in the timeline. Resume will restart it from whatever you paused. Okay, and you can play from a specific navigation point if the video has navigation points. Okay, stop all only applies if you're exporting what you're creating here as a SWF file, which is something that we haven't seen and very few people that I know do it, which is you can create actual animate content, SWF file, ActionScript3 content from InDesign and then send it to Animate. So very few people that I know actually use that, but it is there for a reason. So some people must use it. But know that that's what these other things do. They allow you to navigate and control your video or media depending on what you want to do with it. So right now I just simply want to click play and then I want to select this one, the pause button, and what I want to do with that one is I want to go to state, or actually I want to go to state and I just want to call it to go to what state do I want to go to? First state right here where there's no video. So the video should stop playing at that point. That's what that is going to do for now. Now let's test this really quick and see what this interaction gives us. So if I play, I'm seeing the movie and it automatically starts playing. If I click on the pause, the video goes away and I don't see the video anymore. If I click play, boom, I see it again. Pause, it stops. Now, like I said before, if I wanted that to stop, it's no different than when I'm stop or pause in animation. It's no different than when I'm using a pause in a if I want to pause the video, it's no different than when I'm using pause for an animation. So if I go to the buttons and instead of doing on this button on the release, instead of going to the first state, I'm going to remove that state by selecting it and clicking on the minus button here. That tells me, okay, you're about to remove that action, and that's fine. What I want to do is actually I want to go to video and I want to pause the video. That's what I want to do. So when I do that, then I now have the ability to control the video from that window, from these buttons. So if I pause, the video pause. Oh, sorry, let me refresh this. Boom. Play, hit play, there it is, and then pause, and that pauses the video. If I hit play, it's going to go back to the beginning and play again.
Why was it?
So this is where you need to start thinking of how you layer your navigation. So if I want to have 3 buttons, one for pausing and one for resuming, I should have a copy of this button done. So let me make a copy of it here. I'm just going to drag a copy. And to that button, what I want to do is I want to change its go to state because it's already on that state and this button is only going to resume, I'm going to call that resume button. That's only going to resume my animation, and what I don't want to have it go to state because it should already be on state when it's doing this. So I'll remove that action. But what I want to do is I want to go to the video and I want to resume play. So now this button is play, this button is resume, and this one is pause. Okay. Now let's go ahead and test this. Refresh my test. Boom. If I hit play, there it is playing.
Why was I sent to this?
I resume, I paused it and that's fine. Then I click and it keeps on playing from that point. Pause, resume, pause, resume. Okay, so now if I wanted to have a button that takes it all the way back to the beginning, which is basically this action here, I could create yet another button that indicates through an icon. Usually it is an arrow pointing to the left hand side with a little vertical line to the left of it that indicates rewind all the way to the beginning or to the end point. Then you can go ahead and do that. Now what we want to do at this point is we want to align these things so that they look properly on the stack so that I don't see the buttons and I can hide and show things. So what does that mean? Well, let's close this for a second. And what I want to do is as I click on buttons, I want to show things and hide things. So on the first button, the one that plays the video, I am going to select, besides going to state and playing the video, I also want to add an action to hide and show buttons. So when I click on that video, the pause button should become visible, the play button should become invisible, and the resume button should become invisible. From when I pause, when I click on pause, what's going to happen is I also want to add a show and hide buttons action to it. I'm clicking on pause, therefore the resume button should be available, the pause button should be hidden, and the play button should be hidden. And when I click on the resume, the action will be show and hide buttons, show me the pause button, and hide the play button, and hide the resume button. So now that I have that set up, all those buttons set up this way, I can just go ahead and align all these things on top of one another. So I'm going to go ahead and click to align left and align to the bottom. So everything is there. So now let's go ahead and click EPUB and refresh this, play it, and let's see if I did the stack properly. I didn't do the stack properly because that didn't show the video, but it started playing it. It resumed it from the beginning. So what that means is that the video, the button on top, this one right here, is my resume button. There it is. So I need to send that backward. To send things backward is the same thing that you do. You do it the same way that you do things in Illustrator when you're moving things up or down the stack. Right click, arrange, send. Let's say send it all the way to the back right now. So now that it's all the way in the back, if I deselect and select again, that should be my play button, which is the top button that I want to see. Once I hide it, then I don't care because it's hidden and I won't see it again. So let's test this again. Now this button will call the movie, and I see my pause button. When I click on that, it pauses my button, it hides everything else, and now I see the resume button. Click on that, pause, resume. So I can control the video from a navigation outside of the actual video. Now, let's go ahead and talk about sound. So when you create sound, pretty much follow the exact same format. Let's go ahead and bring in an audio file. And I'm placing the audio file by going File, Place, or Control-E. And I want to bring in that audio file right here, open, and you'll notice that when I click, I get a little box. Now, let's place that down here. Actually, let's place it over here. Now, let me refresh this preview, and you'll notice that I have something here. And if I click on that, something else is in there. So I get some kind of gadget. Something is happening there. And if I click on it, I mean, you can do things with it, but not what I want to do. I mean, it's not really useful to me at this point. Let's stop that preview, close the EPUB interactivity window. And if I increase the size of this, you probably will get to see a little bit more. Let's see if that will do something for us right now. And that I increase it, just want to get there. You see a little player going on. And if I click on the player, I get the audio, but that's tiny. I mean, that's basically useless to me at this point. So let's go ahead and pause that really quick. And what I want to do is undo so that I get it actually to be fairly small. And this is what I do in my workflow with audio files. What I do is I use controllers like what we just did here with buttons. So I'm going to import those buttons again. This time we're going to use them for audio. I'm going to program them for audio. And I'm going to make 2 columns. And there is my audio controller, let's say. And what I want to do, again, having them both selected, I'm going to turn them into buttons. And this will be my play button, play sound button, because I don't want to use the same name as the other one, play sound button. Remember, they all have to have different names so that the program doesn't get confused. And this will be the pause sound button. Okay, so this is the play sound, pause sound. Okay, that done, what I want to do is this audio is just media like the video was. So I'm gonna go to the media area, and you'll see that this became context sensitive, but it gives me pretty much the same options. It tells me, do you want to play when a page loads? You want to play the sound when you have a page turned. So that means if you have different pages, you can have different sounds per page, and then they can play based on whenever you land on those pages. You can also loop the sound. If you have a soundtrack for something, you can loop it. And same thing for as with the previous, you can have a poster to choose what people see on that little window that we saw at the beginning, but I'm not going to use that window at all. I just need that to hold the sound. So that container is holding the sound, and that's all I need from it. One thing that is very important is that the sound needs to be on the page. It needs to be on your canvas. It needs to be on your stage for it to actually be recognized as a sound. If it's on the pasteboard, it will not be recognized. So make sure that your sound is always on the page somewhere. And that's the tricky portion of things that I need to, this is what I do in my workflow, like I said. I can go ahead, let me close this window really quick, the media window. And what I want to do at this point, this music file, what I want to do is I want to make that window 1 pixel by 1 pixel in size up here. So if I go to the width and height, I want to do 2 things first. I want to place it all the way on the upper left-hand corner. So I'm going to make sure that it is placed at the 0 mark. So it is all the way on the upper left-hand corner up here. And then I want to make that box 1 pixel by 1 pixel, let's say. 1 by 1. Okay. So that means it's a tiny little dot up there that no one's going to see. Okay. And what I want to do now is create the interactivity with these buttons. When I hit this button, my music should play. So if I go media, buttons, on that play sound, I want to go ahead and say I want to control the sound. For the sound track that I have right now is called medium.mp3. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Or I can click resume to start from whatever it happens to be. Then I'm going to click on this one, the other button to pause. I'm going to choose sound, and I want it to pause. That's all I want to do with those 2 buttons. I'm going to make sure that they're all on top of the other so that it seems like it's one single button. Then I'm going to place that button, those buttons, all the way down here on the right-hand corner. Oh, sorry, I moved the inner portion, the actual image. There it is. Boom. And now that I have those 2 things, whoops, again, one on top of the other. Now let's go ahead and do a preview. So nothing is happening, but if I click on this button, I'll hear the sound. Oh, I didn't tell it to go to hide the button, sorry. So let's pause that for a second. Now I need to add the interactivity to hide the button. So I'll go ahead and select that button, and I'll say I also want, when I click on this, to show and hide buttons. And I'm gonna say, this is why it is important to name these buttons. I had a lot of buttons, play and stop and resume and all that jazz. So if I don't have the proper nomenclature, then I'm going to get really confused when I'm looking at this. However, I know that I'm working with the sound buttons, which are these. And what I want to do is I don't want these buttons to affect these over here, so that's not doing anything to those 3. But these 2 will be affected. When I click on play, which is this one, I'm going to hide the play sound button, and I'm going to show the pause button. That's 1. Then let me go ahead and move this guy out of the way, select the pause button, and what I want to do is I want to add an action to that again. When I click on the pause sound button, I want to hide the pause sound button, and I want to show the resume or play button for the sound. So that done, let me close that window. Once again, align these 2 things so that they're one on top of the other, so that it appears to be one single button. Let's go ahead and click and check the interactivity. Play. There's the sound. Sound is up here. It's a little white pixel that no one sees. Close. And it doesn't have to be there. I just happen to like it there because I know in my layout where I will see it in time, more times than not, that area will be covered by some part of the interface in the application that you will be using to read the EPUB. So that basically is an area that you don't see, but it's still part of your stage. And then if I click on this guy, there's my video. Pause. Resume. Pause. So that works just fine. This is basically for any of the files. You can actually have both at the same time, which is really annoying. You can have that and that, but you can get on the way. So that is how you import media into your EPUBs through InDesign, and how you control them by using buttons for which you create interactivity through the snippets of code that are provided by the program.